G'day guys, so following on from last week's video, I wanted to do one around the content of Kokuteeru and how it's structured. So like a lot of cocktail books for this time period, it is an anthology of recipes laid out in different sections. So from cocktails to flips to juleps, etc, etc, etc. All of the measurements are done through divisions of ounces, so half an ounce, third an ounce, all that kind of thing. And as a fun little side note, these serving styles in Japan in 1924 were about half of what we make today. We can see this through the picture of the glassware the Yonekichi maid gave us as well. As you can see, like the cocktail glass is about the size of a port wine glass. Now, these are mostly classics and recipes that you would have been expected to know as a bartender in Japan in 1924. However, there are some exceptions and there are a few additional features which are quite interesting. One of these is the fact that for some classics they are divided into styles based on country. As we discussed in last week's video, Japan had influence from lots of cocktail scenes all at once, from America to England to France and to Germany. So we sometimes see recipes like the martini in the Kokuteeru is divided up by American style recipe against the English style recipe, and then a simple generic martini recipe as well. Obviously, bartenders in Japan at this time had to be aware of both how to make a classic and how to make it for particular customers depending on where they were from, which I think is a really good mindset for all bartenders to have nowadays. There is also one recipe which is uniquely Yonekichi made's, and this is the Lime cocktail. This was named for Cafe Lime, which was a bar that he worked at, and is a mix of gin, sweet vermouth, Don Benedictine, and bitters, garnished with rakkyo, which is a Japanese shallot. This is a really interesting drink, and I think was very bartender centric. It has a really long palate to it and a very complex flavor profile. I'd like to describe it as like a chrysanthemum but on steroids. Additionally, there are classics in this book that, whilst they share the name with various other drinks like throughout the history, they are unique due to the ingredients that were available to Japanese bartenders at the time. And probably my favorite example of this is the cider nectar. Cider nectar is a recipe that turns up in a lot of the old cocktail books, which is usually just like a glass of cider with a shot of spirit, usually brandy. In this case, the cider nectar is made using Mitsuya cider. Mitsuya cider is a non-alcoholic beverage from Japan that's been made all the way back since the 1800s that has a very unique flavor profile. It kind of sits somewhere between a lemon squash and a ginger beer. So whilst this recipe has the same name as cider nectar, I would consider it quite unique in the flavor profile, and it is one of my personal favorites from this book. Now, I could go on. There's lots of really fun recipes in Kokuteeru, some really interesting insights into drinking in this time period, but you'll all get to discover that for yourselves when you get your book. To everyone that's donated so far, thank you very much. We're getting really close to hitting the 100 copy mark. And if you guys know anyone that you think would be interested in this, share this video for them, please.